on the lookout. Maybe don't go here. And the county started to notice that Daisy was talking to the lawman. So he started to dress in disguise, as did she. They were known as, what was it? PTA and, oh, I can't remember the other one. PTA and something. There was acronyms for something, but I can't remember exactly what it was. I'd have to look at my journal. But they started dressing in disguise, and Daisy took the lawman down to Saint Denis, and we climbed up on the rooftops and took some photos. It was really great. And the lawman ended up getting in trouble by the marshal. The marshal also found out what Daisy was doing because Daisy was stupid and she was dressed in disguise and talked in town openly about something, and somebody had overheard her, and so that person had ran and told the marshal, and the marshal had questioned Daisy, and Daisy got sent to jail. She lost her snitching rights. Before this, Daisy had been pretty sneaky and not really done too much jail time. Afterwards, Mr. Hoffman and Daisy were officially an item. They were together. He wanted to move to Rhodes, so her and him would be the pioneering couple of Rhodes. He opened up the Rhodes Parlor House. And then she started seeing him less and less. Things kind of fizzled out between the two of them. Nothing against him, it's just things, they just didn't work out. And Daisy decided to stay there in Rhodes, and T ended up letting the cafe go. The cafe wasn't making very much money. He wanted to pursue something different, so she stayed down there. Thank goodness Daisy didn't get rid of her house that she built in Strawberry. She kept it for a while. And yep, you guessed it. Daisy ended up meeting somebody else. She met this man who was down in Blackwater. He was kind of a shorter guy. He was, kind of mysterious. Always had binoculars out and seemed to always be in the mix of whatever was going on down in Blackwater, and so she didn't say anything to him at first, but she did notice him. Then one night she heard this gentleman talking to his friend and saying, out loud, "I got 10 tickets." They were about to board the train, and so Daisy sneaks up behind him and says, "Oh, thank you, sir." She's talking to the train conductor. "Thank you, sir. You're so kind. This gentleman's gonna pay my way. I do appreciate it. So kind of you." Daisy was hustling herself a free ticket from this gentleman that just shouted out, "I got 10 tickets." In her mind, in her head, she heard, "Free ride to Valentine, all aboard." And so they rode to Valentine. This gentleman was, he was kind. He paid her way, but that wasn't his intention, nor did he really care for her at all. He didn't despise her, but he wasn't really, I don't know, he didn't have eyes for her. I'll put it that way. And so Daisy decided to sit right next to him. And she was smiling underneath that bandana, knowing that she was kind of getting underneath his skin. And his friend thought it was funny. So when they got to Valentine, she enjoyed their company, and she said, "You know what? I got this. There's this house that I want to show you guys if you are not you know, if you're not too busy, if you're free, I could take you there and show you. And he said, oh, sure, you know, might as well. So they went over there near Van Horn. There's this mansion that I don't think this is in the base game, but there's a mansion over near Van Horn that has an underground cave system, and it's got like a pentagram. It looks real witchy and real spooky like. So when they get there, they're kind of laughing and joking, you know, things are real lighthearted. And then the friend, whose name was Wyatt, started acting all crazy like. Started talking about sacrifices, and at first we were kind of like, haha, yeah, right, whatever. And then he starts being a little more serious, and we're like, okay, we need to get the heck out of here. So Daisy, this gentleman by the name of Brad, and his friend Wyatt were all in the house. Wyatt got left there at the house while Brad and Daisy took off in the balloon. And after that night, Daisy and Brad started hanging out. Wyatt, whenever they would bump into Wyatt, he would be trying to chase them down, said he wanted to talk to Brad for some reason. And one night he ends up kidnapping Daisy and talking about how he's gonna sacrifice her. He needs a innocent soul. And then at the drop of a hat, he switches his mind and he just takes her to Brad. And then he starts forcing them to say vows to each other, like wedding vows. At this point, County had been talking, you know, maybe potentially Brad and Daisy were dating. We were not dating. We were barely hanging out at this point, but for some reason word got spread that they were potentially dating, maybe even married, which I thought was absolutely ridiculous. But I can take a joke, and so I thought it was kind of funny, and what I did was I dressed up in a white dress and went down to Saint Denis, and I sent Brad a pigeon. I asked him to meet me there in Saint Denis. So he meets her there, and he says, you know, why am I meeting you here? She's like, oh, haven't you heard? We're married. And he goes, what? I ain't signed no papers or nothing. And she goes, oh, well, me either. But, I don't know, people seem to think you fancy me or something. And he goes, oh, those motherfuckers. Brad had this thing of where they'd be hanging out, all of a sudden he'd drop down on one knee and be like, oh, itchy knee. Just anytime they were hanging out, just like, oh, itchy knee. You know what? She started to think, okay, well, maybe he really does like me. Maybe he's planning on proposing one day. Brad had asked Daisy to go to the snow. And up in the snow there's a gem cutting station where you can sharpen gems. And Brad had a diamond on him. Now, she didn't know this at the time, but later found out that potentially the reason why he was taking her up to the snow was to sharpen a diamond so he could actually propose to her the proper way, rather than Wyatt sitting there trying to force us to get married. And eventually his friends, his family, ended up getting their wish and forced Daisy and Brad to get married in Valentine. They were hanging out. She got a pigeon at her feet that said, you know, wear something nice, come to Valentine. Well, she responded and said, I've got to go to Rhodes first to get changed. She goes to Rhodes, gets dressed up. She kind of had an inkling that maybe they might be trying to get the two of them married, because there was a couple incidents where Wyatt had kind of forced us to start saying vows to each other. Brad would always stop though before he said my wife. He'd say, you know, my business partner. I take you, Daisy, as my business partner. I do not take you as my wife. It's just trolling, being funny. Anyway, they end up getting married. Then she notices that despite all their fun adventures that they had, and despite all the itchy knees and the jokes, he didn't seem too happy, and she thought, you know, well, at this point, she was enjoying his company and thought, well, if I was going to be forced to be married to him, I could get along with him. She couldn't understand why he was sad almost, or disappointed, and the following day a poster comes out that says Brad McDougal wanted for a criminal organization. She had an inkling that maybe he might be involved in something criminal because he had said that he was watching this house for this wealthy man. And which house was it? It was this ginormous manor down here, Braithwaite Manor. And they had actually had dinner on one of the balconies. So she tried her best to reassure him that she would try and be the best partner that she could be for him. But he sent a pigeon to her and asked if she could meet at the manor. And so she went over there to the manor. He was dressed in disguise because he was wanted by the law. And he apologized and he just said, you know, look, I am sorry. Please don't hurt me. Hope that you can find somebody that can give you what you deserve and what you want, but I don't think I can. So she was heartbroken. At this point, she had lost JD and she had lost Mr. Hoffman and she had lost some of her friends as well. But now she was losing her husband. And afterwards, things started to become more clear on why he wanted to call things off. Daisy was desperate for their attention. Like the family's approval. And whenever I say the family, I mean the posse. So she found out that Brad was part of a posse and the leader of one. And his second-hand man and her did not really get along too well. Daisy thought, I've lived the criminal life. I can do what you guys are doing. So what did she do? She provided them with hundreds of dollars worth of illegal items. And one of the brothers actually paid her for these items. And another time she ended up just giving it to him for free. She handed items to all 4 or 5 brothers that were there. Brad was nowhere to be seen. So he handed these items over to the brothers, and then she also said, look, I really would like to speak to Brad. I wrote him this letter. Can you guys tell me what you think? Do you think it's too much? Do you think I should just move on? Or do you think he, you know, at this point she was not entirely sure why he wanted to call things off. But like I said, later on it ended up making sense. Some of the brothers were like, well, maybe just give it time. Some of them didn't understand why he was doing it. Because he had spent so much time with her. Well, let me buy some wheat. We made it to the ranch. Oh, don't get in there.